The lead numbers that franchisors see from listing sites have gone down.
Are there any search terms that come up that aren't used within like the franchise industry that people that don't really know much about franchising type in and search?
We know 2/3 of all traffic click on organic search results.
So if you were a franchisor, you'd be putting your franchise on the listing site.
How's things?
Good. You all right?
Yes, not too bad. Probably should welcome everyone to this episode of the Franchise Marketing Show.
You should.
So thank you for tuning in to the Franchise Marketing Show. This week we're going to talk about listing sites. I've seen, it seems like it's a question that crops up like every couple of weeks. Like I see franchisors asking what listing sites work for other people. Do listing sites work in general? Did they used to work better? Are they not working as well? Which one should I go on? Just loads of questions around them. And I think it's a very hard one to just answer quickly. So I thought we could chat about it.
Okay. So what is a listing site?
Well,
for people that don't know.
Okay, well, so a listing site, I suppose, is like a online directory, if you like. Yeah. And I suppose you get them for every different sector in a range of different places. In the franchise world, they are online directories of franchise opportunities that I suppose franchisors essentially pay to be on, typically a monthly fee to be on, although some are a cost per lead basis.
Okay.
And to advertise their franchise.
It's like check a trade for franchises.
Yes, without the check.
Yeah, without saying like these are trustworthy franchises. These are the franchise opportunities.
Yeah, so anyone can advertise their franchise opportunity on there. Now, I suppose looking at why they've historically been a big thing is that they dominate the searches around franchising. So if you search franchise opportunities or franchising in the UK, I would say the whole of page one typically will be completely dominated organically with franchise listing sites. Mm-hmm. So that's their key benefit, is that they drive lots of traffic. People looking for a franchise are likely to come across a listing site. And obviously as a franchisor, you can pay to be on there so people can discover your franchise opportunity. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. So what's this that you're reading? Like, are they working or have they stopped working or
this is the interesting part. I think over time, if you judge it purely on a lead from so how they typically work, okay? If I'm a visitor and I'm looking for a franchise, I search for franchise opportunities. I come across one of these listing sites. I go onto the listing site. I pick out the franchises I like. Some of them you kind of tick a box, fill out an inquiry form. That captures a lead in the listing site. The franchisor gets a lead via email.
Yeah.
So I suppose the advantage of that is it's very easy for franchisors to attribute directly the number of leads that have come from that listing site, if that makes sense. I think the big shift, and this is the thing which makes it really difficult, is that's not really how people use the internet anymore. And I think franchise listing sites still have a very important place because they dominate that search. So if we think that typically someone looking to invest in a franchise are going to turn to Google multiple times, they're going to be looking at all different franchise opportunities. Listing sites for someone looking at franchise are actually really useful. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a place where they can go through, look at different sectors, look at all the different opportunities. The biggest issue these days, I think, is that someone could look at franchise A and say, I'm really interested in franchise A. 15 years ago, I think they would have submitted the form on the listing site for more information. That's not really how people use the internet now.
Okay, and this is what I was going to ask.
Yeah, and I think the problem is now that someone looks at franchise A and says, that looks great, opens up another browser and searches for franchise A, and then does their own research and goes into it. So what's happened over time, absolutely, is that the lead numbers that franchisors see from listing sites have gone down. And they've gone down dramatically, I think, in most circumstances. So if you're comparing leads like for like over time, from listing sites, they are down. But I think consumer behavior comes into that, and people looking for a franchise are researching around. They see something they like, they're going to search separately. And it could be that you're still generating a number of leads from listing sites, but they're going directly to your website, if that makes sense.
So they're doing more research rather than just filling in a form on that listing site. They're finding out more from each one. So they may be like looking at 5 and they're looking at those 5 in deeper detail.
I think so. Not all the time. Leads do still come from listing sites, but I think it's the important thing to think about before directly attributing how successful those listing sites are for you, if you're just going by the leads that listing site sends you, because ultimately they're helping you be discovered for people looking for a franchise. And the question would be, if you're not on that listing site, how are you going to get your opportunity in front of people who are generally looking for a franchise opportunity, if that makes sense? Now, there are other ways. Of course, Google Ads helps you skip that. If you run a Google Ads campaign, you can come top of the searches, not all the time, but some of the time, based on different keywords, and that could be above the listing sites. But we know 2/3 of all traffic click on organic search results. So those listing sites are still driving thousands of clicks each month. And if you're not on them, how is your opportunity going to be seen for people? So I understand when a question constantly comes up because lead numbers are down.
Yeah.
But just how much of the general awareness about your opportunity and leads that come directly through your website still come from those listing sites?
So I've got 2 questions off the back of that. Are you fed up of saying listing site? Because you said it about 407 times.
Sorry. Can you edit something out?
I just know you said it again and again and again. And the second question was, can you track if someone's found you on a listing site and then gone through to your website?
No, and that's the issue. So that is the big point here, because a few things around this. What you would typically have, I'm trying not to say listing site, but what if you get a lead for you've got a franchise website that advertises your franchise opportunity. You may get 10 leads a month that come to that website. They have to have heard or found you from somewhere, those leads. Now, it could be you running a Google Ads campaign, which let's say that brings 4 of them in. It could be that there's a couple of referrals that bring a couple in. It could be that someone found you organically, but again, that's a problem. The listing sites dominate the organic search, so it's unlikely. So you may end up with 3 or 4 leads that you actually can't attribute where they have heard about you. And that's where I think the listing sites still build that awareness. And unfortunately, there is no real way of attributing those leads. And very often, if anyone that's running kind of franchise recruitment campaigns, really try and think of how many leads that get into your process that you say are website leads that actually you can't attribute, because they're the ones that they have to be finding out about you from somewhere. And that's where I think listing sites still have a place, I suppose.
So if you're running a listing site, you're going to charge just to be on there rather than charge per lead if the leads aren't trackable.
So some of them have now switched to a cost per lead basis.
Okay.
Most of them you pay a monthly fee to be on. But one of the things that I've always thought with listing sites actually is I would love it, and I think franchisors wouldn't mind this as well, but bearing in mind you can't attribute all of the interest they generate. If they just said, rather than having a form at the bottom that people fill out if they want to hear about that particular opportunity, whether they just put a direct link to the franchisor's website, you wouldn't be able to track the people that fill out the form, but you would know how many people clicked a link. And instead of saying you got 3 leads this month that have filled out the form,
you had all these clicks.
You said we gave you 100 clicks that went through to your website. I think that would actually be more valuable, and then franchisors could attribute a bit more what come from them. There's a few reasons why it probably won't happen. It's a bit risky from the listing site point of view, because they're just letting the traffic kind of fall off their website, and also they don't collect the data from people filling out the forms that they can then use in e-shots, which they also do.
So which site should they go on?
Well, that is the other question. So there are ones over time. I'm purposely not naming them because I don't think it's fair to actually name. I think they all have.
If you name some, you won't name others, and it's not fair.
And some are more effective than others. But the key thing is, some are more effective for other brands and sectors than they are for others. I don't think. What I would always do is make the kind of searches that you think someone looking for your franchise would make on Google. So if you search franchise opportunities, there's probably 1 or 2 listing sites that will always come in the top 1 or 2 positions. But if you're a children's activities franchise, it could be that someone looking for a franchise opportunities knows directly they want a children's activities franchise and searches children's activities franchise. And then look at what listing site comes in that number 1 spot. Because whatever's coming in that number 1 spot is probably driving most of the organic traffic of looking for a children's activities franchise, in that case being the one where you'd most want your franchise opportunity to be seen, if that makes sense. So I don't think there is a one size fits all. And actually, when you start doing, if you search home care franchise or motor franchise or cleaning franchise or children's activities franchise, you'll find different listing sites rank differently for those different searches. And it's the ones which rank the highest for your particular sector is the ones you should be on. And that's why when people ask the question, which are the best listing sites, there isn't a one size fits all answer, because it's going to be very dependent on your opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Just a question that popped into my head. I don't know if this is a ridiculously stupid question, but are there any search terms that come up that aren't used within like the franchise industry that people that don't really know much about franchising type in and search?
No, it is a good question. And we run lots of Google ad campaigns for franchise recruitment, so constantly looking at this. You can obviously widen it by bidding on traffic for people looking for a business opportunity in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know the exact figures, but let's say there's 20 times more traffic of people searching business opportunities than franchise opportunities. I think that would be relatively fair to say. And we've tested this. The problem is that people searching business opportunities could be a long way away from starting a business, if that makes sense. It could be someone just researching because they hate their job, they haven't actually got the investment level, but at some point they want to start a business. They're just trying to get ideas of the kind of businesses that they could run. So it opens up tons of traffic, which could be relevant, but it's not going to be anywhere near as relevant for someone who's searching franchise opportunities because they're actively looking for a franchise.
Yeah.
And that's the important part why I think listing sites still very much have a place, because ultimately there are two ponds you can fish in when you're looking for inquiries around franchising. You've got the pond of people who are actively looking for a franchise. Then you've got the pond of people who are not actively looking for a franchise but fit the profile person you think would be a good franchisee. Yeah. So like meta ads would be them, that you could target people based on their demographics because you think they'd make a good franchisee. But the pond of people who are actively looking for a franchise are the ones who hopefully have the investment level there. They've already know about franchising because they're searching about it. They're actively looking for a they're like the grade A inquiries. Yeah. And the truth is, there's only a couple of places you can actually fish in that pond to find those people, and that's probably Google, either organic listings, which become the listing sites, Google Ads, where you can pay to run a Google ad campaign, or these days, probably the only other place is franchise shows, where obviously people are going to find a franchise opportunity. Outside of that, maybe magazines. There aren't too many of them around anymore. So you're really limited. If you want to drive people who are actively looking for a franchise into your process, that's why I think listing sites still have a place.
Yeah. So if you were a franchisor, you'd be putting your franchise on the listing site?
Depending what sector I was in. Okay. And yeah, I think so. There are some franchise opportunities that don't need to fish in that pond because they can recruit really well by targeting people of a certain profile into the opportunity.
Off the top of your head, who would they be? What kind of franchises?
Children's activities franchises very often. A lot of those networks are grown through running Facebook ads and things like that. And actually a lot of the franchisees that buy children's activities franchisees are not actively looking for a franchise, if that makes sense. Other ones, sometimes very sector-specific franchise opportunities. So we worked with a HR franchise once. To become a franchisee of the HR particular franchise, you had to have a background in HR and HR qualifications. Okay, yeah. So actually that didn't really work going on a listing site because maybe only 1% of people that go on that listing site are going to have those particular qualifications. So they had to do things where they were marketing to HR professionals. So it does differ, but I think your general management style franchise or franchise opportunity where people come from a range of different backgrounds and it could work for a range of different people and they're actively looking for a franchise, I think you've got to be driving traffic of people actively looking, and you've got to have a strategy to do that.
Nice. Cool. I think that covers it.
Yeah.
That was good. That was interesting. I learned a lot there.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, good questions. Nice. But it's a question that comes up a lot, and it will always come up. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, and I think it's worth trying a few different things. But I think the key thing is, if you're going to go on those listing sites, don't completely judge the success of it by the leads you get directly from the site. Yeah. because ultimately it will be also introducing your opportunity to other organic traffic of people looking at franchising that may find you or may become a lead with you in a different way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And very often, what you could do is you could start looking at the uplift in general inquiries you get once going on a listing site, or the reverse. If you stop going on a listing site, do you notice inquiries going down through your website and different things?
Interesting, nice. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions or any subjects you want us to talk about in future episodes, feel free to put them in the comments. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye. Say goodbye.
Goodbye.